What's going on, guys? Welcome to Cruising with Kevin. Today we're going to be doing some vehicle maintenance on my wife's 2016 Chevy Traverse here. Been kind of procrastinating it and she's been very patient, so I'll show you guys what's going on here. Let's get to it. So that kind of shows you the thickness. I want to thank Mukar, the sponsor of today's video. They sent me out this Mukar 892 BT to basically resolve some of my problems that I have here on this 2016 Traverse. So I'll show you guys that in a few minutes here. All right, guys. So the first thing I've noticed here, the brakes have started squealing on this thing pretty recently here, probably over the last month, and I just haven't had time to get to it. So I ordered some brake pads for it. Crossed my fingers that it hasn't got into the rotors yet, and so we're going to start with that first there. So we got to get the tires off. If you guys notice, if you guys are new to the channel and you're just coming in, we don't really have any merchandise yet. We've been working on a program for a bit, but just kind of got this shirt made just as a first kind of test shirt and stuff to see how I liked how it fit and comfort wise and what type of material it was, and I actually really like it. So I'll show you guys in a minute too. Got a couple other things going in the garage here that I didn't have before, which is pretty sweet. So I'll get this tire off and we'll take a look. All right, let's take a look down here. It's probably kind of hard to see, but kind of see there, especially on the inside, there is not a whole lot of brake pad left there. So we're going to change out these front ones for sure. I got a set of 4. The other thing I like to do, and I don't have any right now, so all these boots, they actually make a spray for them, and I haven't really had some in a long time, but you spray those and it basically keeps the boots soft so that the CV boots don't end up cracking on you. I like to do that when I have the front wheels off. All right, for whatever reason, the passenger side wore down a lot quicker than the driver. There was a little bit left. It wasn't, so I'm not sure exactly here. I only got front pads because I thought that's what was going on. It's what it sounded like, which, and they normally go first, unless the back haven't been changed yet, but the front was the right passenger side there was pretty much toast. So I ordered some from Amazon here. So I got the front ones. They're made by Bendix here. I'll put the link in the description there. So they come with the new pads set for each side there, and then also the clips that hold them into the, basically into the brake caliper there. So I'll take this apart and see what we're dealing with here. So that kind of shows you the thickness compared to the new one and the old one there. Now there was still some life left in the old one. I'm starting to suspect maybe it's the back brakes that are actually the ones that are squealing. So I don't have parts for that today, so I might check it, but we'll kind of finish up this front and then go to there. I already have the new ones, so I might as well put the new ones on this, then I know it's good for a while. In order to take these brakes off here, you need a 13 millimeter, and then there's 2 bolts. So one right here, I took that one out already, and then there's a bottom one, and then all you do is you just tip this forward, and I'll show you guys. It's pretty straightforward. I already took the pads out there, kind of got ahead of myself, but you just knock the pads out, and then you just take these clips and you pull those off, and just like that, and that's what holds the pads in. Guys, so you can see the piston calipers are compressed in. I used the old brake pad for that so it doesn't mar up the new brake pad. And then the clips here, so you literally just take it like this and then you snap it up there like that, and it's as easy as that. You can see I already put that inside pad on, but I want to show you because it's easier to see from the outside here. So you put your clips in, top and bottom, you can see, and that's actually what holds your pad in. And so you make sure that these tabs or behind it, because that's what keeps pressure to hold your brake pads in there. And sometimes it's a little finicky to get in. Just kind of see that tab over here is kind of catching, so you just got to kind of wiggle it into place there, and then make sure you grab both sides there, and then there you go. You squeeze that in and back over like that. All right, guys, so on the passenger side, sorry, it's kind of dark in my garage here, but I'll show you kind of the easiest way to do it now. There's no real right and wrong way to do it, but it is easier if you take the bottom bolt completely out and fold it up. You can do it from the top, fold it down, so it doesn't really matter, but it does stand up a little bit easier. So let me show you that. All right, guys, so just loosened up this. Actually, I already loosened this one up too. So 13 millimeter bolt on the bottom here. And then you have to have this one loosened up. And then I'll show you, you flip this up and you take the pads out. All right. You guys should tell Tubbo to sponsor me because I use this stuff like crazy. But anyways, irrelevant. So you take the clip here, same as the other side. This time I flipped it upwards just to show you guys you can do it a different way. Okay, so you do it however you guys want, but I do it like this. So I'm just finishing tightening this down, and so that basically closes up these two pistons here. Some of the older cars have like a single piston, but this one has a dual piston in it, so it gets that squeezed all the way down so that when you're going to put your new pads in, that there's actually room for it to go over top of your rotor there. So we'll take that off of there and just squeeze it down until it's closed. I use the old pad so that it doesn't damage the new pad, otherwise it might mar up the new pad there. So two sets of clips here. You can see the bottom one, you just snap it in. Same with the top one here, just get it up like this. And you can see there's little ribs on the edge here that it snaps over top of. And then you grab your new pads. Okay, so these particular pads, it says left hand inner there. So we know that's the inner part here. And so it's a little bit just hard to see back here. So now you can actually turn the steering if you want, so you can have a little better view of this, but just takes a little bit of finagling there. You snap that in, and that one's on that side, and then you get the outside one here because it says outer. That's how you know you're so smart. And then you get that past the clip there. Probably should put the bottom in first. There's kind of little tabs, so just so you know, so you're not fighting that, but there's kind of those little tabs there. So I just started on the outside of that and then worked my way in. Same thing here. Ow. And then you cut yourself like that. And then you can see there's tension on it. See when you squeeze it like that? And the whole idea behind that is that's what keeps the tension to push it away. Because if it doesn't have that, so if you can kind of see that on the old tap, that's actually what pushes the brake pad away from just riding on your rotor all the time there. So, and then all you do is you got to kind of squeeze those down. You try to get it back together here. Sometimes it's a little bit of finagling around here. Make sure you don't smash your hand like I did earlier. And just give it a little squeeze there. So you can see what I just did there on because this bolt was loose there. I just give this a little bit of a squeeze and then it went over top there. So I'll get this bottom piece squeezed in here and then we should be good to put the bolts back on, and that's as easy as that. All right, just like reverse of how we got it together there, you tighten up these two 13 millimeter bolts and it's literally as easy as that. You just take those two bolts out. I snug them both down first and then I tighten them up good. And you probably should torque them. That would be the right way to do it, but I am not going to do that. So we'll just snug it back down. If you want to torque them, get the torque specs. I don't know what those are, so I'm just kind of old school and I do things just by feel. So that should be pretty good. And on both sides really good. That way if they fall apart, then you guys can see on video that I actually tightened them. Good enough, that's it. All right, if you guys remember in a previous video I did on this Traverse, we had a major transmission shudder problem. And the biggest thing there was that they went way too long before we bought it on changing the transmission fluid. And that's really common. People don't service transmissions as much as they should. And these Traverses are really common for having that problem. So I did change it. If you watched the last video, it pretty much solved the problem, but we've put a pile of miles on it since then and it's starting to come back now. So I'm gonna try something the same but a little different this time, just a couple different things, and see if it'll kind of, I guess, buy us some more time here. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. All right, so 11 millimeter socket, you remove the drain nut for the transmission here. And if you guys can see, because the first time that I changed it in the previous video there, it was just, had been probably never changed before. And so when you drain it, you don't get all the fluid out of the torque converter. And so it really probably wasn't fully clean. The best situation would be to drain it, run it, and then drain it, and then fill it a second time. But of course, this fluid that I used the first time was fairly expensive, so I didn't do that. So see if I can make a giant mess here. Hopefully not. think I'm underneath the pan here maybe. It comes out pretty quick. Ooh, look at me, winner chicken dinner. There we go. But you can see it's supposed to be red, and that is not even remotely close to red. That looks like engine oil, so not good. So I'm gonna let that drain out. I'm gonna just let it fully drain. I was debating just draining half of it depending on how dirty it looked, but I figured this would be the situation. And then I'm gonna refill it, and I'll show you guys that in a minute here. All right, I'm going to pull out the transmission dipstick here, which is the fill on this one. And we got a funnel here. Make sure it's clean, and we'll put that back in there. We'll go from there. Same as last time, guys. So we kind of know roughly how much we drained out this time because I actually poured it back into some jugs out of the container. So looks like we poured out about 5 quarts this time. So same as last time, I used this Mobil 1 synthetic LV ATF HP. It's supposed to be the very best one for helping with the shudder problem. We used it last time, it worked really good. Like I said, we've put tens of thousands of miles since then, but it's starting to come back because we just waited too long on it. So I'm gonna start adding this here, and then we'll go from there and show you the next part. Make sure you're pouring it into the actual transmission and not onto the ground, because this stuff is kind of pricey. So the first time that we did this, I added that fluid I just showed you guys, and then I added this instant shudder fix. And this is basically the magic that kind of helps the transmission. And 90% of the time, this will work for you, unless like ours, it was too far gone, and it actually did fix it for a long time. What I probably should have done, because ours was so bad the first time here, was put 2 of these in, and I only put 1. So this time I did a little bit of research. I'm gonna add this instant shudder fix with the Lucas automatic transmission fluid conditioner here. So you guys can kind of see this here. I did enough research here. I'm not recommending you do this together. I'm just going to try it just because, but I know that the shudder fix works. The Lucas, I've never personally used this stuff. I've used a lot of Lucas products, but not this particular one. Lucas makes good stuff, but I did a little research and they say you can use it together, so I'm going to send it because ours is starting to kind of get annoying here. So we've had a bunch of little problems with this thing, nothing major, but right now it's got a check engine light on, trying to figure out what that's for. A regular OBD2 scanner that you get from just generic stores or whatever, it only does a handful of things. This Mucar 892BT does a lot of functions. It does, I mean, almost anything you can possibly imagine that you want to be looking for. So we're going to try to figure out what this check engine light is for on this Traverse, and we'll get this thing fired up and see what it does here. So it's actually wireless, and it goes to the OBD2 port, but it's actually like a Bluetooth connection, so which is kind of nice because you don't have that cord dangling there with you. OBD2 port there, and there we go, and it is connected. And then we'll turn on our Mucar scanner. All right, never having used this thing before, we'll just kind of figure it out as we go. So I turned the ignition key on, and you clicked on the OBD scan here, and then let's see what happens here. All right, so it should automatically, okay, there it scanned the VIN number, and then all protocols. Well, let's see what we got here. So we should read the fault codes here. Okay, there we go. So P0138, P013E, P013, and 138 and 130. So it looks like it's an O2 code. Yeah, let's just try a Google search on this P0138. Let's see. Oh, look at that. It does an auto search. Really cool. So I already connected it to Wi-Fi. You go into your settings, you just connect it to your local Wi-Fi. Super easy. So that makes it really easy to work on this stuff. So it says the P0138 trouble codes mean O2 circuit bank 1 sensor 2. All right, so the P0138 code here, carparts.com, it shows that it is the downstream sensor sends to high voltage. So basically the downstream O2 sensor. So I'll change that out and we'll see if that resolves the problem. All right, guys, so the sensor, it looks like it is the one at the very back here. As you can see, I'm underneath the vehicle here. And basically you just thread that out. There's a plug-in, and you unplug it, and then you screw the new one in, and hopefully it's good to go here. All right, that was like almost an hour of me just trying to get this O2 sensor out, so there was nothing exciting to record other than me learning a bunch of new garage words here. But this is the one that came out of it. The hardest part actually was to get this thing unclipped. And then the other part was, so there's actually like a little piece that slides through here and locks this in. It's basically like a little snap clip here. So it was hard to get that off anyways. I got that pulled out, and then this was in there super tight, and you can see it's pretty rusted up there. So I ended up having to get an actual snipe on it, and because I'm laying on my back, it was definitely a little bit of a fight to get it out there. But I ordered one of these from Amazon here. This is a replacement O2 sensor here. We'll put the link in the description, but it's just a generic. It's a Nefedia Auto Parts one. It was the right one for it, so I ordered that. So we threw it in, and we're gonna go back and see if we can clear the codes and if we can get this thing fired up again. All right, after that whole under the car debacle there, we're gonna go back through and clear up the fault codes here. So I think this is right. Before clearing the fault codes, please check your vehicle has been repaired. If you delete the fault codes, the malfunction indicator, so basically check engine light, may illuminate again. Do you want to clear fault codes? It will clear all emissions related stuff. Yes. All DTCs have been cleared. Yes. All right. So get the tires back on this thing, and then we will check everything out here. Take the thing out of the scanner, put it back in the old Mookar. It's magnetic, so you can't lose it, which is pretty cool. And now we're gonna fire this thing up. I put the tires back on it, and we're gonna have to fire it up, see if there's a check engine light, and then also if the fluid in the transmission is good here. So let's fire this thing up now. All right, and there you guys go. No check engine light anymore. Now we do have a tire sensor light. That's a whole separate problem there. And you can see 205,000 miles on the car there. So yeah, but there we go. So we'll drive it for a bit, but it seems like that was probably likely the issue there. Kind of suspected that maybe. And so I'll check the fluid, and then we'll go from there. Guys, this Mookar thing was actually pretty sweet. It does like a ton of different models. We're talking hundreds of manufacturers, makes, models. And yeah, honestly worked great. There's actually a whole bunch of other diagnostic stuff that I want to do on this vehicle yet. I don't have time to do it today, but overall this thing worked really good. I like that you can go in and clear the codes. You can do the live data. It does like BCM modules, all that kind of stuff. So there's tons and tons and tons of features on it. We barely scratched the surface. I actually really like that it had good connectivity to the internet for diagnosing things too. That makes it really simple. So thanks again for watching, guys. Like always, appreciate all the support. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share me around on social media. I am Cruising with Kevin. Hit the hype button if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.